welcome to yet another episode of the Galaxy Garden Update. It's been a year pretty much since I started this whole project. I finished landscaping the beds behind me on the solstice, the winter solstice in June last year, and it's solstice next weekend. And so yeah, I think this is my 24th episode of this update, and so we've completed a full calendar year, which is pretty cool. This time we've had, you can tell it's the middle of winter. I've got two jumpers on. I've just took my beanie off to do this video. We've had our first bush turkey attack in Mercury and Mars this last week, which is interesting. They've come in, and where I composted, I think you can see, where am I pointing? There, Mercury in the background. They dug up the middle of Mercury, where the compost has been laid, and Mars directly behind me. They've ruined the end of that as well. So I'm not going to get all the seeds I sowed in those beds come to fruition. But which brings me to another point in that it's quite slow this time of year. You can tell in the seed tray. I've only had to plant, if you remember, I left two, there was some peas and some kale from mid-May's tray that I couldn't plant out last time because they were too small. They were the only ones that got to any decent size. The whole of the rest of the tray for the start of June I've left in the greenhouse, and I'll plant that hopefully in a fortnight. I have planted another seed tray. I was really tempted not to bother planting any seeds this fortnight because it's just slow and nothing's really growing. You might as well wait until things are going to bounce out the ground with some vigour. But I've done it anyway just to do the experiment and see if my hunch is correct. And yes, you can tell that the plants have slowed right down. So some of the, you'll see later, there was some carrot seedlings coming up in one of the wicking beds. They've completely disappeared. So what we're looking like promising seedlings, there's nothing there anymore. And so yeah, this kind of weather, just the lack of sun, just slows everything right down. But we can still grow things like the pak choi's coming on quite well. The peas are coming on quite well. It's almost as though you have to have this stuff already growing before the middle of June, or probably the start of June, and then it's great through winter. But if you want to start something in June, it's you're pushing a poo uphill really. You need to be getting it in there before the winter months, and then they can carry on growing all through winter. This is the tray from last fortnight. You can see on the left here we've got the peas that are going all right now. I can plant them out. One of them hasn't sprouted, but the other three are going quite well. The other four are going quite well. And the kale is now on its second set of leaves, so I can get them in the ground. There was hardly anything there last fortnight, but you can see from this fortnight with the sort of really cold weather and the lack of sun, everything is very slow. Like cabbage hasn't come out at all, kale hasn't come out at all. The telephone beans are really slow at coming out. You remember from the last couple of fortnights they've been 3 or 4 inches high, some of them, after a fortnight. This fortnight hardly anything. So yeah, we're getting into that midwinter period, or shortest day of the year, solstice, when nothing is really growing too well at all. So as I go through the wicking beds, you'll start to see what I mean by the slowing down of things. The beetroot row that I've put in, you can tell that something's chowing on these end ones here. They just gradually peter out to next to nothing. There's another one there. And so I still haven't got around to doing the slug patrol, which I desperately need to start doing. I'm just exhausted in the evening, so I can't be bothered coming out in the freezing cold and starting doing some more work. The radicchio is getting eaten by something as well, probably slugs, but it's still alive. The joys of planting 2 or 3 seeds in the same pot means that some of them are alright, but some of them have been eaten. And then the spinach is doing perfectly well, thank you very much. That's looking not too bad. Just one of them didn't sprout properly or has been completely ravaged. In wicking bed 2, this is looking quite healthy, but again slow growing, not much has changed since last time. Spinach in the middle there, garlic on the left here, lettuce on the right with 1 silver beet. In wicking bed 3, the rocket is starting to get go to seed. I've chopped one out because it's already gone to seed. This one's on its way. So we're just taking the young leaves off this, but it's getting like long in the tooth. So you've got to succession plant the rocket, so you're taking off newer plants all the time. The kale's coming along quite healthy. Carrots are coming along quite well. And then this kohlrabi, I think it's basically reached the end of the season it's going to grow in, because everything is attacking it, as you can see from this one. There's one down here that's got a big hole in the base of it where a slug's been, this one's got a big hole in the base of it where a slug's been straight into it. So I need to probably just harvest these and have done with it and plant something else in there. The reason I haven't is because I haven't had anything else to plant in there, so I've just left them. Wicking bed 4 is looking pretty healthy, but again, this is where I had the carrot seedlings last fortnight, and there's absolutely nothing left of them now. So again, I needed to get that growing a bit earlier. Wicking bed 5 looking super healthy again. Lettuce coming up to harvesting time. Rocket coming up to harvesting time. Well, should be being harvested now. These are all perfect leaves. And then the mustard, I'm just letting grow. I can only eat so much of this mustard. It's red hot. I'm just letting it sort of fumigate my soil. Its roots are good for the soil. I think I mentioned in an earlier post about using mustard for green manure. And here you can see, so I just came along and literally sprayed seed everywhere, handful of seed, and it comes up everywhere. And so hopefully we'll get a bed full of mustard. I can chop and drop it, and it's feeding the soil. I'll just pan out so you can see where I am. So this is just the nectarine little bed next to all the veggie patch stuff. So yes, you can choose to eat it if you want. You can let it go to seed and save the seed, which is a bit of a laborious process, but not undoable. It's handy saving a load of seed for next year to do the same thing in different garden beds or all over the garden. See, a really successful way of growing green manure on your own without having to buy anything. Wicking bed 6, spinach still going, leeks coming on a treat. I'm going to harvest this one, I think, fairly shortly. Oh, sorry, shadow. Yeah, so just leeks and spinach all coming on quite well. Again, I need to get some seedlings in here, but yes, very slow at the moment. Wicking bed 7, again, rocket on this side, beetroot, lettuce and silver beet, and everything looking quite healthy. Even the beetroot. Hopefully we get some decent sized beetroots out of these. Yeah, wicking bed 8, got a bit of kale growing. Some of it's been slugged again. Tatsoi doing really well on this, in this middle bit. Silver beet, and then spinach on this side, and I'm sorry for my shadow, which is coming along nicely. Down in the Galaxy garden itself, we've got a great looking echinacea coming up in the front here that I grew from seed. That's the only one of all the ones I've grown that have really come to something. The lettuce is quite slow on the left here, and in the middle, about where my finger is now, that whole patch got dug out by a turkey. So I planted a whole row of parsnips down the middle, and that's going to be completely disturbed in the middle this way. But that section of the garden bed is going to be completely ruined because a turkey took the whole lot out. So I'm contemplating putting the pipe arches over with netting to stop turkeys if this is going to become a common occurrence. Interestingly enough, the day that happened, I was in the garden most of the day and went out for 2 hours and came back and it was ruined. Whereas there's other days I've been out all day and nothing, well, most days I'm out all day and nothing happens. In Venus, got some decent red cabbage. This pak choi, which I haven't harvested, which I should have done before it went to seed. The spinach is looking really good now. Let's have a look at these cabbages. Not really forming heads yet, but still looking very healthy. Still a couple of magnolias going really well. I've took most of them out because they're looking very ratty and saved a load of seed. But there's the odd plant you can see from looking through the place that still going strong and looking beautiful. In Mars, the turkey just completely smashed this end of the bed. Interestingly enough, he did completely smash it, but there are seedlings coming up here. And I've not sat down and really looked at this bed today while I'm doing the video, and the seedlings are coming up everywhere. So hopefully we're going to get some carrots out of this. Very positive, happy as Larry with that. In Jupiter, still got a row of carrots. The rocket at the end is coming on all right. I need to fill out this road so that we can have the end of the row full of carrots. Spring onions growing okay, interspersed with lettuce, and there's a couple of beetroot here. Again, I've been planting more beetroot, but it doesn't seem to be coming to much. In Saturn, I must say I've been wholly unsuccessful really in growing this kind of kale the whole year. But this one plant has decided it loves it here and is growing really well. And I'm going to have to start harvesting it because it's starting to get... You can see the telltale poo of pests. Caterpillars mainly. The cabbages, these are cauliflowers, are looking not too bad. Hopefully we get some heads out of that shortly. You've got to be pretty onto it with cauliflowers because you go from nothing to a full head of cauliflower in like a day and a half or a day. So if you miss a couple of days checking them, it's going to seed. And then at the far end here we've got the broccoli. Getting a few more tiny broccoli heads. And I harvested the one from last fortnight, hoping that it might sprout from the side and give me a couple more. And then at the end we've got the other kind of kale that I'm finding it difficult to grow on purpose, that's still just going and going and going. This has been in there since I think December. It looks ratty, then comes good, then looks ratty, then comes good. A good lesson in just letting stuff be and seeing what happens. On the other side of Saturn, the silver beet's not looking so flashy. I've sort of ripped all the manky leaves off. It might come back good again, like the kale I've just highlighted, hopefully. But I've the only things I've sown this month out of that tray from a month ago, these sugar snap peas and the kale. So I've dotted in between the silver beet and filled the row up with kale. And I got a couple of spring onions that are just about ready for harvesting at the end. In Uranus, the garlic's still looking good. No real change there. It's a bit of a waiting game of garlic. But in Neptune, we are having a pea fest. Lou's just been and harvested most of the big ones, so yes, there are stacks of them on here, which is great. And the daikon down below is looking really good now, getting hugely fat. If you look at that compared to my hand, it's pretty awesome. In fact, we'll give it this one's definitely ready to come out. So you can see that's a Fairly awesome specimen. Got to work out how to eat that much daikon. In the shade house, my experiments with onion and chives aren't really coming to much. Absolutely no action whatsoever when they're out in the open. And in the greenhouse, you can see my efforts from June. So that whole tray really is not ready for going out yet. And this is the tray that I planted out this fortnight. So yeah, lettuce, sugar snap peas, radicchio, onions, chives, spinach, peas, like proper peas, not snap peas, pak choy, rocket, tatsoi I put in, and 3 rows of beetroot just to see if I can get some decent amount of beetroot going, because there were so few varieties that can get planted in winter. I thought I'll just go for my life with beetroot and fill the tray out. And in other news, this is the verge garden. I've been slowly getting around the garden and chopping and dropping. So the salvias, which I'm focusing on here, you know, used to be this high with flowers on, but the flowers are getting a bit ratty. So just come along with the shears and keep chopping and turn it all into this, and then just leave it on the floor really. It looks a bit untidy for a while. Ideally, if I had something like it looks even more untidy because the bush turkey's been into everything. Now that I've dropped it all, it's got the open space to have a look and see what it can find. But ideally I would be covering all of that up with something like rotted horse manure or mulch or mushroom compost. But I'm really trying to do this garden without outside inputs, or as minimal as possible outside inputs, trying to make my own garden sort of support itself, if you like. And so I just leave everything like that, and it saves me carting it back to the compost pile and then carting the compost back to this pile, back to the garden bed. And so you can see I've opened up the understory a whole heap, and the turkey just loves it. Kind of interesting, it might actually keep him out of my veggie patch if he's got something to do here. And it is the male that I'm watching do it. I wasn't being un-PC. That's about all for today. One thing I did forget to mention actually is, whilst there's sort of slower growing in the winter season, there is also a lot slower growing with the weeds. So my my sort of labour this month has been, I don't know, half at least of what it was previously. Very few weeds coming up, and very little maintenance to be done, which is great. Allows me to concentrate on the rest of the garden and trying to make that jungle look something like this veggie patch. Alright, I will see you again in a fortnight. Thank you for watching. See you soon.